Yeah, I think that's a really good, like, positive takeaway is to have that thought process. You know, that you were just to be in the conversation is something. Like, obviously, it's not what you want to settle for, but just being in the conversation of the teams that are expected to be contenders, even down up until the last week of the season, even though the season didn't end quite the way we wanted it to. Obviously, like, we would have had more fun if we were celebrating getting into the postseason today than if we were celebrating, the positive takeaways that we had from the season and our top 5 favorite moments.
Yeah.
But it's the thing where Jake and I have this mentality of focusing on positivity, focusing on growth, and not focusing on the negativity and things that are going to shrink capabilities, and like not focusing on the negativity just because it benefits nobody. And honestly, it just hurts the general public mental health, in addition to obviously the person doing the complaining. So Jake and I just decide not to do that. So Jake and I are not going to do any complaining today, despite a pretty rough weekend for Wisconsin sports. The Brewers and the Badgers more so than the Packers, but the Packers we'll talk about on Friday night. But today we're going to talk about the Brewers and the Badgers. So we are going to talk about our 5 positive takeaways that we each had from this Brewers season. We're each going to talk about our top 5 moments from the season. And then in the next couple of weeks here, we're going to talk about what the Brewers can improve. And then once we get into, a little bit more of the off season, Jake and I'll talk about how they can improve those things. And then a little bit farther down when free agency opens, we'll come up with like a wish list. And we'll do that so that we keep focusing on the Brewers throughout the off season. The Brewers are a couple hours away from the season being over, and then no more baseball for Milwaukee until 2023, which is a bummer. It feels like baseball season went really fast. Does it feel like that for you too?
Yeah. They say you don't understand how fast time moves till you have kids, and I'm sure you feel that too. But
yeah,
all of a sudden you look at next summer and your kid is 8 inches taller. You're like, oh my gosh, when did you get so tall?
Like Facebook memories will get you, dude. You'll start to see like that's what she looked like a year ago. Like, look at those cheeks. Yeah.
Bro, I get it. I get it on Snapchat. It sucks. I hate it. I hate every moment of it.
It's funny seeing Lily from like 2 and 3 years ago. Like, she looks the exact same, but just like stretched out.
Yeah, you do it. And I get that even more. Talking about your own kids, but I get that even more with your kids. Because I don't see your kids every day like I see my own. All of a sudden, I come over and next time I see her, she's gonna be looking me in my eyes.
I think Lily's gonna be taller than Courtney by the time she's a teenager.
I could see that.
Which makes me laugh because she's never gonna be taller than me. So
she looks exactly like you though. She's got the same body you had as a little kid. I'm like, there's no denying that it's Tyler's kid. I'll tell you right now.
All right. So how do you feel about the Brewers? Do you want to do the top 5 takeaways, or do you want to do the top 5 moments first?
I think moments will be more fun, so I think we should do takeaways. But I just wanted to say something real quick. We talked about enjoying the ride, 2 months ago maybe? And I saw people yeah, and it's really disappointing, but I saw people talking like, I didn't have fun. We didn't make the playoffs. It's like, when I did my moments, you're going to see a trend that I did. And I was a little petty, I'm not going to lie, when I did my moments. Because it's like, there was a lot of stuff that happened in this season. A lot of injuries, but there was still a lot of accolades team accolades that were broken or set. And, there was career years for other guys. Like, there's still a lot of stuff to enjoy,
Yep.
And, we lost a lot of games that we shouldn't have. And the negative always outweighs the positive. That's just how our brain works.
Yep.
So people are going to think about, oh, remember when they didn't beat the Reds and then the Cubs and that, messed up their season? Well, there's lots of things that could have messed up their season. So to put it on 2 series, when we were in the playoff hunt is ridiculous in my opinion. And people pointing at the Josh Hader trade, like, oh, the Josh Hader trade ruined this team. You think one trade, and yes, I understand, mindset and camaraderie and, all those fancy words. I understand all that, but we still had the tools to finish the job,
Yeah.
at that moment that we were at.
Yep.
And, we'll get there. I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but I just wanted to get that out there. You don't have to, you can have fun. Okay.
Yeah.
You can have fun.
There's
great moments.
It doesn't have to be all about the end result, because if that were the case, 29 fan bases every year wouldn't have fun.
Yeah.
In the NBA, it would be the same thing. In the
Yeah.
NFL, 31 fan bases would never have fun. It's a scenario where Craig Counsell talked about it today, and he said even just having expectations of being, World Series contenders, or the expectations to be in the playoffs, that in itself is a good thing, because it means that you're a good team. And, being in, a little shy of 90 wins, isn't where we predicted they would be. I think I predicted the Brewers would win like 93 games or something like that.
Yeah.
But, to be in the conversation of still making the playoffs, as the season is a week away from being over, that's better than some teams could have hoped for when the season began, much less at the All-Star break, much less coming into August, much less coming into September to even be able to able to contend for a playoff spot.
Exactly. Well, think about this. You're talking about sorry to cut you off. You're talking about the being World Series contenders, right? And he said that we should take pride in that, and I 100% agree. Tell a Milwaukee Brewers fan in 2015, I believe, was the year we won like 60-some games. Tell them that in 2022, we're going to be one of the best pitching staffs. We're going to be considered, World Series champs in the NL. And they would take it. But now, because we've had success and we have gotten close, now they don't appreciate it. And that goes into the appreciating Corbin Burns, appreciating Aaron Rodgers, appreciating Giannis.
Yeah.
Did you not have fun last year watching the Bucks? I had a lot of fun.
So did I.
Did it fucking suck that they lost to the Celtics? Hell yeah, it did.
Yep.
Hate losing to Boston. That's one of the worst cities to lose to.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of fun watching Giannis grow into the best player in the NBA. And that's not even an opinion anymore. Think about that.
Yeah, dude, everybody agrees. Like
it's like a fact now.
Yeah.
So we can say that with no backlash, unless you're probably a Brooklyn Nets fan.
Yeah, or maybe Nuggets, I guess, or Lakers.
Maybe Nuggets. But come on, you really think that Jokic is better than Giannis? We're getting off topic here. He's not. But my point being, like, appreciate what we got, people. Appreciate what you got.
And, like the thing you said of it too is you tell a Brewers fan in 2015 that we'll have made the playoffs 4 times in the next 7 years, they'll probably laugh at you. Because before that, it had been 7 years and they made the playoffs twice. And before that, it was 20 years?
Yeah, think about that.
I get that as you continue to make the playoffs consistently, that the next step is to, make deeper runs and then win a championship. Yep. That's pretty much the blueprint that the Milwaukee Bucks laid out was, they got into the second round and then they got into the Eastern Conference Finals and then they eventually won a championship. So getting to that, that's the expectation, is that the expectations will continue to increase. Now, it's a lot harder in baseball, which is just an unfortunate truth that it's harder to get over the top in baseball just because the field of play isn't as a level.
Yeah.
But it can be done. There are small market teams that win World Series. The Brewers, I think, are going to do more of a reload than a rebuild. I think they're going to infuse a lot of young talent into this team in 2023, which is something we'll talk about when we get into how the Brewers can improve for next season and what they'll do to improve. But, like we're saying, it's not all about only making the playoffs and only winning a World Series. That's the only way you'll have fun. And that's the only way the team doesn't suck, is if they win a championship. Otherwise, the team sucks. Like, it's championship or bust, and there's no fun involved if there isn't. It's just you're just robbing yourself of enjoying things that you want to enjoy.
It's dumb. Why even do it?
Exactly. I mean, why not just leave your TV turned off or your radio turned off until October 1st.
Yeah.
And find out if they're in the playoffs or not instead of watching all the games and getting invested. And if you are going to watch all the games and listen to all the games, like have some fun with them. There's fun moments to be had even in bad seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I said, the Brewers had opportunity up until like the last week of the season to still make the postseason. You know, what's up, James? James is a Red Sox fan. They have a top 5 payroll, and they're not in the playoffs. You know,
shots fired.
I mean, it's just a fact. Like it's the thing that I would say to those who say, you know, Atanasio needs to spend more. Like spending more doesn't guarantee anything. Trading for players at the deadline doesn't guarantee anything. It still comes down to execution. And the fact is that the guys that were available at the trade deadline didn't. Sorry, Jay, let's pick on you. You just became an amazing example.
He comes in, hey, what's up, man? Shots fired immediately.
Yep, just off the top ropes. Welcome.
Okay.
Yep, there it is. We just lost a viewer. That was probably James leaving. I'm just kidding. But you know, there's teams that didn't make the playoffs. There's teams like the Oakland A's who knew they weren't making the playoffs before the season started. There's teams that knew at the All-Star break, 3 of them in our own division that knew they weren't making the playoffs. So, you know, there's still fun to be had, like the Yankees game just a couple weeks ago, where the Brewers were down 5-0 after 2 innings and came back and won in extra innings.
Right.
So, you know, Jake and I are going to talk about some positive takeaways that we had from this season. I'm just going to throw one out there that kind of came into fruition today, being that Corbin Burns is going to finish number 1 in the National League in strikeouts this year.
Nice.
He is the first Milwaukee Brewer to do so.
Really?
It does not happen in franchise history that a Brewer has led the league that they play in strikeouts.
Wow, that's impressive. Great job.
Corbin Burns this year also has the second highest strikeout total for a single season in franchise history. Let's see what else. There was more.
You're not allowed to enjoy that. We didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, and then
I'm enjoying that.
He has reached 200 innings pitched for the first time in his career. And he's the first Brewer to do it since Giovanni Gallardo in 2012.
That's a long time.
10 years since the Brewers had a starter go 200 innings. Corbin Burns did that this year, leading the NL in strikeouts. The first in franchise history to do that. So that's one positive takeaway I'm going to throw out there. So, Jake, nice. I will let you give one of your positive takeaways.
So one of my positive takeaways, this one might be cheating, but it's kind of a shot at people in the same sense. Counsell deserves to be back as the manager next year.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
I'm just really – it's kind of like the quarterback, right? Like Rodgers. Think about the playoff game last year. This is the analogy I'm going with because this is how my brain's working. He got blamed for that loss, which does he deserve blame? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's the quarterback. He does not deserve 100% of the blame. That is how I feel about Garrett Counsell's position. Think of all the injuries. Think of all the young guys we brought up. Think of all the lineup shuffling. Think of how long the season of baseball is, how unpredictable the sport of baseball is. My positive takeaway is Counsell holding this team together through all of the adversity that he dealt with this season.
That's a good point. That's a really
I think that needs to be mentioned.
Yeah. Before the Matt Bush injury, the Brewers had 25 players on the injured list at some point. 25.
Holy shit. Think about that. Yeah. And he's still, I mean, are they winning? I don't know. He has a chance to win 87 games with that possibility. 25
players on the injured list. Some of them more than once.
87 games is not a crazy amount, but it's still enough of a number where you're looking at it, you're like, you know, in 10 years from now, if nobody watched baseball, right, 10 years ago and somebody was looking at baseball, they would see the Brewers have 87 wins. They would think, that's a pretty good baseball team. You know, just a casual look at it.
It's a decent team. It's a solid team. You know,
yeah, like they're pretty good. But then you take all the injuries into factor. That could be some of the losses. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
2-3 here and there.
Yeah.
That's my first one.
You know, with that too, I forgot what I was going to say, the injuries. Like the 8-game losing streak. That's the other thing I was going to bring up. Mm-hmm. You know, of all the things that didn't go well this season, the 8-game losing streak, that was a big thing. But James is echoing kind of our sentiment, which was one of my positive takeaways, and we kind of talked about it a little bit already. But it's weird that you can't enjoy seasons without championships or playoffs. That's just not true. I mean, there's still fun things to enjoy, even if it's in small moments. So One of my things was that I was thankful the Brewers that had a shot at the playoffs. There's teams whose seasons were basically over before it began. Like I said, I brought up the Oakland A's. Like, I can't imagine being a baseball fan in Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's got to be like, I can't even imagine how frustrating that's got to be. That you trade 3 or 4 of your best players before the season starts, and then you trade the rest of your good players before the trade deadline. That's got to be a tough spot to be in. I wouldn't want to be in that position. I would much rather be in the Brewers' position, even if it means missing the playoffs right before the end of the season.
Bro, you just opened up a whole conversation. Imagine being a sports fan in Oakland. They took the basketball team away. They moved to San Francisco. They took the football team away. They moved to Vegas. And now your baseball team is putrid.
And potentially moving, honestly.
Oof. We had a bad weekend. They have bad years now.
Yeah.
Ouch. That's horrible, man. At least I'm still within an hour drive of seeing any of my teams. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Think about that.
All right. Give me another positive takeaway that you had.
All right. So I know this one is very vanilla, but the Brewers are still great at pitching.
Sure.
And I'm thankful for that. So when you're starting a team and like you said, the position that they're in, and you're coming into next season, you at least know that you're good at pitching. So you can fill in the holes after that. So you have the foundation set. You have a good manager in Craig Counsell, who I really believe is probably top 6, 7, 5 manager in the game. He's been around for a while. So he's definitely up there in that top 5, 6, 7 area. So you're really great at pitching, and honestly, to fix the problems, it sounds easy on paper, but obviously it's harder than it sounds. But you have the pitching, so I am ecstatic about that. I actually am. Coming into next season, I know that we only have to score so many runs per game, 5, 6 runs per game. If they can hit for a little bit better average, we have a really, really good chance to win our division.
Yep.
And the Cardinals are getting older, so that's another positive too.
Dude, the Cardinals are real old. Like, outside of Arenado and Goldschmidt, who are probably going to finish 1 and 2 in the MVP race, like, yeah. I'm going to stay on your takeaways of pitching. I'm going to go with, like, one of my positive takeaways this year was Brandon Woodruff after coming off the injured list.
Yep. So
he appeared in 18 games after coming off the injured list. He gave up 29 earned runs in 109 2/3 innings.
Oh my God.
That's a 197 ERA. He had an 8-1 record in that time, 137 strikeouts, and only 29 walks.
Oh my God. Wow.
Brandon Woodruff post-injured list was a monster.
Yes.
So, people that want to throw out that, trading Hader ruined the season and this or that. In the grand scheme of things, if trading Hader means that we get to re-sign Brandon Woodruff and Corbin Burns, ruin half a season, because having those guys around for the future, easily worth missing out on the playoffs once.
Yeah, and we got a couple of prospects. Got a couple interesting prospects in that deal.
Mizorowski looks real good.
So
he was the second round pick that we got this year.
Yeah.
He's probably going to start the season in AAA.
You think so? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. That dude looks legit. Dude's throwing in the hundreds.
I trust you.
All right, give me another one. Ooh, actually, wait. Hold on. I got more on Woodruff yet. I got more stats on Woodruff. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. So he did also tie Giovanni Gallardo for the second most 10 strikeout games in franchise history. He's up to 18. He did that 6 times in his 18 games after the injured list.
Oh my gosh.
So basically a third of his games, he was over 10 strikeouts.
Yeah, he was nuts.
So he's got 18. Corbin Burns leads the franchise with 21. And then the last thing I have is 11 times he had over 8 strikeouts out of his 18.
That's
so basically 2/3 of the time Woodruff was going to give you at least 8 strikeouts.
That's what you're looking for, and he's our second best pitcher. Think about that.
True.
Nuts.
True.
So my next one is about Garrett Mitchell. Love what I see from the kid. He has all the tools to be a very good and productive center fielder going into 2023 and beyond. He's got that speed factor that we have been missing from this team for quite a while. He can hit for average. He's clutch. I love the experience. I've talked about this so much. I love the experience he got since he's been up in the majors. Just that added playoff pressure is going to be so big for him going into next year. Obviously be a little bit different, going through the walkthrough and going through an entire season. But, Garrett Mitchell having a good center fielder, if he gets a little bit better at defense, I mean, he's all right, but gets a little bit better on defense, I think his offense is going to be phenomenal, especially his speed. I'm really, really looking forward to Garrett Mitchell 2023.
I have Garrett Mitchell on my list as well. And the thing that you said at the very end was that you're excited for his speed. You want to know something nuts?
Oh, boy.
He's in the 99th percentile for sprint speed.
You can tell. You can tell. He's fast, dude. He's so fast.
So he is in the top 1% of Major League Baseball in sprint speed.
He's fast, man. I'm so excited for that speed aspect next year. It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, so that gives me the belief that he can be a capable center fielder, as it just comes down to playing in Miller Park more, understanding where the walls are and stuff. Miller Park's kind of a goofy shape in center field just because of the dents in the walls where it kind of slants a little bit. It's not a perfect curve. But Garrett Mitchell, so here I have Garrett Mitchell's numbers with the Major League Baseball average. So now Garrett Mitchell obviously only played a little over a month of a season. He played about 6 weeks in Major League Baseball. But these are Garrett Mitchell's numbers compared to the Major League Baseball average. He is above average in strikeout percentage, so I will say for Garrett Mitchell to improve, he's going to have to bring his strikeout numbers down. But hard hit percentage, Garrett Mitchell, 37.9, Major League Baseball average, 35.8.
All right, it's a positive.
Average exit velocity, Garrett Mitchell, 92.3 miles an hour, Major League Baseball average, 88.4.
Again, above average.
Barrel percentage, Garrett Mitchell, 10.3%, Major League Baseball, 6.7%.
Okay.
Sweet spot. So this is the sweet spot of the bat. Garrett Mitchell, 41.4%, Major League Baseball, 33.8%.
He's sounding good to me, man.
So coming into today's game, Garrett Mitchell was batting .310, on base percentage of .365, slugging .466 for an OPS of .831.
You can live with that, honestly.
Dude, if he plays an entire season like that, talking all-star numbers there, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly. And then if he can mix in a little bit of power too. The thing that I think makes Garrett Mitchell really appealing for me, because I talked about it at the All-Star break, was one of the ways the Brewers could improve their season. And I brought up a lot of opposite field hitting was one of the major things that I hit on. Garrett Mitchell, opposite field hitting, 48.3%. Major League Baseball, 25.4.
Yeah, attaboy.
So Garrett Mitchell loves using that opposite field. I think that's going to help make him a high average hitter because he's, the Brewers, I'll be honest, we know what the Brewers' identity was. The Brewers were going up to bat, swinging for home runs. That was their offense, was hitting home runs. There's really no sugarcoating it, nor is there any denying it. That said, Garrett Mitchell represents the first in a long line of draft picks geared towards contact hitters, getting on base, putting the ball in play.
Mm-hmm.
So Garrett Mitchell represents the first in a long line of basically 3 drafts in a row where the Brewers weren't drafting power hitters outside of Joey Weimer, but drafting guys that are going to get on base at a high clip, get on, strikeouts fewer than walks, guys that draw more walks than strikeouts. It's Garrett Mitchell. I have him penned in as the starting center fielder for 2023. Like, you can write it in ink, you can write it in permanent marker, you can write it in pencil if you want, but I really, truly believe that Garrett Mitchell is going to be the starting center fielder in 2023. James said basketball season is almost here, so is NHL season. Yeah, I wish we had an NHL team. in Wisconsin, maybe someday. But I do root for the Predators because their minor league team is in Milwaukee. So we got that. And I think Jake and I are going to do our basketball primer 2 weeks from today because that'll be the day before opening night for the Bucks. So give me your next positive takeaway from Brewers season.
All right. So my next one is, and this one is going to be a little bit sensitive because it goes back to football. It goes back to Bakhtiari. It goes back to paying people for what they have done for you and what you are expecting them to continue to do for you. And it is Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff. They're worth every fucking penny, dude. Everything that we would pay them for the next 5 years, they're worth it. For everything that they've given us and everything they're going to give us. We have 2 horses, like Clydesdales, top of the line. Like Tyler just went through all these stats of Woodruff. There's crazy stats for Burns. I mean, the guy won the Cy Young Award. Yeah, cut him. Yeah, cut them both. Yeah. Get rid of him. But
gotta make another David Bakhtiari apology for him.
Dude, I love seeing your comments with the Rashawn Gary one. That was awesome. If you haven't checked it out, we have David Bakhtiari and Rashawn Gary apology forms. If you were seen talking shit about them the previous seasons, even this season, people talking shit about David Bakhtiari, ridiculous.
That's
and now
awful.
I can't wait for Friday. I'm burning everybody because he plays so many snaps on Sunday. Against good pass rushers too.
Mm-hmm.
But Burns and Woodruff, they're worth every single penny. We need to keep them by all costs. And Tyler has alluded to it, talking about getting rid of Hader looks like a move that was going to make us keep Burns and Woodruff. If that happens, I am 100% on board with Tyler. I'm 100% on board with everybody else that agrees with it. We need to keep those 2 around because that goes into one of my other takeaways of having great pitching. We have those 2. We're good to go. Love it.
James, people having to forfeit game checks for missing games due to injury. I saw a thing where a guy was saying, guys are getting paid millions of dollars. They shouldn't be missing practice. It's like,
yeah.
If your job is to make a team money on Sunday, why would you want to risk getting hurt on Wednesday?
No, practice is more important, Tyler.
Dude, the guy legit said that, and I was done. Once the guy said that Wednesday was more important than Sunday and that practice was more important than games, I was done. I was out. Like, nope, I'm out. I'm going to jump out of a window.
Wednesday practice is more important than the game on Sunday that millions of people are watching, and the reason that you get paid millions of dollars. Yep. Makes sense to me.
Yep. Revenue comes from Wednesdays. That's it. So on another note of people that could potentially deserve an apology, and I would say a guy that does for the Brewers is Christian Yelich. He really thrived as a leadoff hitter. I think it changed his identity. His identity in 2018 and 2019 was that, he was going to hit home runs, once every 4 games. And, just be this crazy 40 home run hitter, 30 stolen base guy. He almost got his 20th stolen base today. He was a pretty good base stealer this year for the Brewers, but his power has kind of dissipated. Basically, it was just those 2 big years for his power. It seems now that the Christian Yelich that we have on the Brewers is like a Miami Marlins version of Christian Yelich, where he's going to hit, 15 or so home runs, steal a handful of bases, hit for a high average. He's got, now people are going to have a hard time differentiating this because Christian Yelich is a good outfielder. But he is a good outfielder based on the fact that he has range and a good glove.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically. He doesn't have the arm strength. That's why he plays right or left field instead of right field anymore. That's why he put him in left field. But he has good range, and he's made a lot of sliding catches, some diving catches this year. He's doesn't actually have to do that very often because he's so fast and because he gets a good jump off the ball that he is a good outfielder. Now, that said, as a leadoff hitter, Christian Yelich batted .270, had an on-base percentage of .380. I'll take that all day. 38% on base percentage. His slugging was a little low, .395. He did have a handful of doubles, not a ton of extra base hits, not a ton of home runs. But that said, Christian Yelich was healthy this year.
Yeah.
He played yesterday. I didn't look to see if he was playing today because I know they might have just been giving some guys playing time. But coming into today, he had played 153 games this year. So seeing Christian Yelich play essentially a full season, playing 153 games, that's encouraging because he had dealt with back and knee injuries the last 2 years. So getting a full season out of Christian Yelich, I think, is a positive takeaway in and of itself.
100%.
Then you get to Christian Yelich, was 26th in Major League Baseball in singles. He was 28th in on-base percentage in all of baseball, not just in the NL, all of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
He was 7th in walk percentage and 4th in all of baseball in walks.
Wow.
So Christian Yelich still had a pretty solid season. We'd like to see that average a little closer to 300, but you know, being at 270 instead of 240, I mean, I'll take that.
100%,
you know, getting on base 38% of the time ahead of power hitters like Willie Adames, Hunter Renfroe, and Rowdy Tellez. That's what you need.
Mm-hmm.
My dad asked how much are stats going to change with the new rules next year. Having dominant pitching and getting strikeouts is huge, and batting averages should all go up. That's the goal, is to have batting averages go up. The bases are going to be bigger next year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly how much, but like the bases are going to be, I don't know, like 3 or 4 inches bigger, which should encourage stealing bases a little more. I know they discussed moving second base closer to home plate to make the distance between the bases a little bit shorter to encourage, base running and just to try to increase scoring in the league. Banning the shift, they can still move players around, but they can't put infield players in the outfield. So when Christian Yelich has a lot of those hard hit balls that would, basically go between the first and second baseman, unless the second baseman is playing like shoulder to shoulder with the first baseman, a lot of those are going to get through. A lot of those high choppers that get fielded in the shallow right field area, those are the ones that are going to be gone away. Christian Yelich and Rowdy Tellez are two of the big ones that are going to be beneficiaries of that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see as far as pitching goes. I don't think it's going to affect Lauer too much because teams aren't going to be putting a ton of lefties in the lineup against a left-handed pitcher in Lauer. Adrian Hauser is a guy that could potentially be affected by it if a team that has a ton of lefties puts a ton of lefties in against Adrian Hauser in an attempt to be pulling a lot of balls. So I think it could potentially affect him. But it's going to be a new thing. So we'll just really have to watch the beginning of the season and see how these changes really affect teams and affects strategies with the teams. So you got one more positive takeaway yet?
I do. And it is actually about Eric Lauer. I think that he's established himself as a very good starter, if nothing else. When you think about Eric Lauer and you look at his stats, 11-7, not too shabby. I don't really care about wins, losses. I don't think they all should belong to pitchers anyways.
I agree.
3.69 ERA. Nice. 157 strikeouts and a 1.22 whip. That's not too shabby. That's your third guy. That's your third guy, maybe moving down the fourth with a fully healthy Peralta.
Yep.
I will take a 3.69 ERA from a fourth guy who's a lefty getting 157 strikeouts.
Yep.
That could be huge for the Brewers potentially. And then you think about a guy like Aaron Ashby. You can mix him in there. I mean, the Brewers have options next year for pitching. It's going to be very interesting to see how Council puts this roster together next year. If
the Brewers could really truly employ their 6-man rotation the way they did in 2021, I think that bodes really well for the Brewers this year. Corbin Burns is the only one out of those 6 pitchers that didn't spend time on the injured list.
Yeah, think about that.
Brandon Woodruff was on the injured list for a month. Freddie Peralta was on the injured list for 2 months and then another week. Eric Lauer was on the injured list for 2 weeks. Adrian Hauser was on the injured list for a month. Aaron Ashby was on the injured list for like 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, pay Corbin Burns. Like, pay him before the game ends today.
Yeah, for real.
And then pay him again. Just give him a lifetime contract with a blank dollar section.
I agree with that.
So my last one, I went with Mike Brasso as a pinch hitter. for positive takeaways. He
I see
did
that.
really well as a pinch hitter. He finished 9 for 17 on pinch hitting appearances, 3 home runs, 12 RBI. Listen to these numbers. This is Mike Brasso as a pinch hitter. A 529 batting average, 579 on base percentage, 1.176 slugging, and a 1755 OPS
Holy
as a
crap.
pinch hitter.
That's actually
That's
huge,
awesome.
man. That could get him a spot on this roster next year, man.
I agree. Not to mention, I'm pretty sure his ERA is still 0.00 in the 3 innings that he pitched.
Let's go, baby. He does everything.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. So the Brewers, the Brewers are going to have a lot of turnover coming into next season. But, that turnover creates opportunity. I think that's what a lot of people want to see is they want to see a lot of new faces on the Brewers next year to have a reason to be excited. I think people kind of have that same feeling with the Bucks that they want to see a lot of turnover. They want to see big splash trades. They want new faces, and they want to do the remix of a team and not reload. They don't want to bring in the same core of guys and then add a couple pieces here and there. I think the Brewers are going to have a lot of turnover next year, and I think that comes from Wong, McCutchen, and Narvaez being the main 3 free agents. All the young guys that are in AAA that are basically ready to come up. I think that creates, more opportunity for new faces on the roster and some new optimism for the team and some youth into the team.
Yeah.
I think turnover creates opportunity there. There could be some growing pains early in the season, like we're seeing with the Packers. It's going to be a very similar situation. Maybe a lot of young guys trying to find their identity and the team really getting used to having different guys around on the roster. So I do think that there is some opportunity there, and we'll talk about it. But let's go to our top 5 moments of the season. I don't know. Did you do yours in order?
Nah, I just threw them on there.
Okay.
I didn't know because I liked them all. Obviously, I picked them.
Right.
But it's like I didn't know. Like, is this one cooler than this one?
Right.
They all mean something to me.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll just go the way that I wrote them down. So,
Sure.
The first one I wrote down was the walk-off on July 4th. After Boxberger, had the master class with the change-ups there, to hold the score where it was, and then
Dude, for him to walk off just completely stone-faced, like what a G.
Yeah, right. Like he's just like, I did that, and then Carantini, who was horrible that whole day,
He was 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts.
comes up to the plate and hits a walk-off homer against his former team. And the fact that it happened against the Cubs makes it a little bit sweeter, but definitely one of my top 5 moments.
That's a good one. The first one that I wrote down was Willy Adames breaking Robin Yount's franchise record for home runs as a shortstop.
Yep.
Willy Adames had 98 RBI this year.
Yeah, think about that.
To go with all of his home runs. And then listen to this. Willy Adames missed 3 weeks of the season and broke that record.
Yeah.
Willy Adames, we'd be talking about him probably as at least a 35 home run hitter and 100 RBI, pretty much guaranteed. I can pretty much guarantee that Willy Adames could get 2 RBI in 3 weeks. So we'd be potentially talking about him as a 35 home run, 40 home run guy with 100 RBI and great defense.
Rocket arm.
Dude, he had second highest arm strength rating out of all shortstops in Major League Baseball. You could probably guess who number 1 is.
No, you tell me.
It's O'Neal Cruz from the Pirates.
Oh yeah,
that dude's a freak.
He's
fun to watch. He's a freak.
Yeah, that makes sense. And he's going to be a problem. I mean, they're going to suck. I mean, they got a couple players.
He's going to be Juan Soto on the Nationals. They're not going to have any good players except for one superstar.
Yeah,
that's going to be
the fact that he's so big, it's
weird that he plays shortstop at that size.
Right? Like,
what are you doing? Get over to first base and catch everything.
He's that one freaking kid that got held back and plays AAU with the 14-year-olds, even though he's definitely 17. That's what he looks like.
O'Neal, get in the outfield. You're 3 heads taller than everybody out here. Get out of the outfield.
It's huge. Yeah, he's going to be fun to watch. It's going to suck because he plays good against us.
All right, give me your next Give me your next top 5 moment.
I mean, I'll just say it since you already said it, but I have Willie setting the home run mark too, because because like I said, when he did it, Robin Yount's probably the best player in our team history. So for him to break a record from the best player in our team's history, that says something. Willie definitely is making a name for himself. He's become a fan favorite. He's also very, very down to earth, very humble guy for how good he is. Always smiling, always having a good time. So I always appreciate players like Willie Adames. So I'll say that one next.
All right, my next one is the 5-0 comeback against the Yankees. Being down 5-0 in the first 2 innings, coming all the way back. Garrett Mitchell hitting a walk-off shot right back up the middle to win the game. That was the largest comeback of the season. I had that one in my top 5 moments. I enjoyed watching that one live.
All right, so if you're coming into the season and I would have asked you, what Brewers potentially have a shot at 3 home runs? You're not picking Colton Wong.
Oh, no. Yeah, he'd probably be 10th on the list.
Right, and you're going to have to put him in a situation like in Cincinnati because they give up a lot of home runs. Well, that happened. So his 3 home run game against Cincinnati definitely had to be on my list because it was just like he has his career high in home runs now. He's coming up big. He was really good in the second half of the season, I thought. We talked about Woody being good, but Colton Wong was very good in the second half of the season. So 3 home run day in Cincy, and then another multi-home run game happened that same series with Renfroe, but we're used to that with him,
Renfroe hit like 8 home runs in Cincinnati this year.
Yeah.
So my next one is also home run related. I brought the 6 home run game against the Cubs. And the fact that it came exactly 16 years after the last time that the Brewers hit 6 home runs against the Cubs was just entertaining. So Jace Peterson, Christian Yelich, Willie Adames, Andrew McCutchen, and Hunter Renfroe twice, 6 home runs against the Cubs. That was my next top 5 moment. I enjoyed that game.
We like shitting on Chicago.
Naturally.
Yeah, right. So my next one is Burns taking the lead for most 10 strikeout games. Tyler obviously spoiled the next part of mine with Woodruff becoming second on the list, but him setting that record and just burning through the record books, he's going to be known as the best pitcher in our history if he isn't already. Yeah, right. Burn it through. I didn't even realize I made that pun. He's just mowing people down, striking people out, being Cy Burns. I want to be the first one on the train of like, let's just give him a gazillion dollars and just make sure he doesn't leave. Because I don't want to be a minor league team for big market teams, because a lot of teams are like that because there is no salary cap. We groom these players up, and we got little kids watching games too, and they fall in love with these guys and they want to be these guys as little kids, and then they get shipped off to LA or they get shipped off to New York or they get shipped off to Dallas or wherever, right? It's just like, I don't want that. So I want Burns and I want Woody to stay because I don't want that. Hey, it's the Wisco blokes, huh? Hey, you come back on Friday. We got something for you on Friday.
On the subject of keeping guys around and being the minor league team, I would much rather go this route of trying to make the playoffs every year. Yeah, Isaac said hide your players. LA buying everybody. I would rather be trying to make the playoffs every year, even if it means being on the fringe in one season, like 2022, than to have to be so all in like 2008, 2011, that, if it doesn't work out this year, we're not sniffing the playoffs for another 5 years. Like, I don't like that. I would rather have that opportunity to get into the playoffs every year and then go on a run. That's where David Stearns has the quote of, more bites at the apple. That's what he's talking about, is making the playoffs more often and just trying to be the hottest team in Major League Baseball when the playoffs start, 100%. As opposed to trying to be some overpowering powerhouse that has a chance to win it all once every 3 to 5 to 7 years. Facts. So my next takeaway is Eric Lauer's game against the Phillies. Eric Lauer against the Phillies. This one, I don't even remember what day this was. I didn't write down the date. Yeah, James, as long as you make the playoffs, you have a chance. Eric Lauer versus the Phillies pitched 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 walk, 13 strikeouts. That was Eric Lauer's career high in strikeouts. That was a really fun game to watch, watching him strike out the Phillies left and right. So that was my next top 5 moment. What's up, Simon?
That one was a little low key. I like that one.
I had to look back through my notes and just look for where I had like multiple exclamation marks.
That was a good one. I was not expecting to hear that. My next one's a little shot at everybody. I talked about Counsell and my takeaways, so I'm going to talk about him in my moments. Counsell setting the wins record for Brewers manager.
That's a good one.
Definitely top 5. People just need to chill out. And last week we had Scary Alvarez on. He talked about how he had a losing record for a few years. And nobody was calling for his head. It's just with the times. I mean, imagine
have a losing record this year.
Yeah, right. Imagine Matt LaFleur has a losing record. Say we're 3 years from now, and Rodgers is gone, and Matt LaFleur has a losing record. Everybody will be calling for his head by week 7, guaranteed, 100% guaranteed. And it's the saddest shit in the world because of everything that he did before that moment just means nothing. And
it's the same thing. Like I said, it's like when it comes to players, it's the same with coaching, that people just want to see a new face to feel optimism.
That just makes no sense to me. I don't know how to explain that.
It does. I just don't. Sometimes. Like we're gonna talk about the Badgers in a little bit here with Mike, and we're gonna talk about Paul Chryst, but
right, that's a whole different situation because that's a necessity at this point, right? Like,
right.
And like you said, we'll get into it. But like when you looked at Chryst, I looked at him the last couple of years, and I'm watching him on the sidelines, and he's just sitting like this, and I'm looking into his eyes, and I'm like, there's nothing in there. Yeah. He's not there. There's nothing in there. So that's a situation where it's necessary. But getting rid of Craig Counsell right now makes no sense.
I don't feel that way with Craig Counsell. When I look at Craig Counsell, I don't think, oh, there's a guy that has no fire, no passion, no whatever.
Right.
When I look at Craig Counsell and I see that he's got that stoic look on his face, I feel like he's just wheels are just constantly churning. That's how I feel about Craig Counsell. I feel like he's just constantly thinking baseball. He's trying to think 2, 3, 4, 5 moves ahead. So that's how I feel about Counsell. I don't feel like it's a lack of passion for Counsell. I think it's that he's trying to get ahead of the next move in the game. That's what I think Craig Counsell is doing when he's just, standing there not showing a ton of emotion.
I'd agree with that. And, a little bit you have to show that poise in those moments every once in a while for your players to know, like, it's okay. That happens. We're going to be okay. We're going to go make the next play. So I understand not being all fiery, going crazy at every second, and I'm not asking for that either. But there just is moments where you do need that as well, So for me, it's Counsell setting the wins record. He set the wins record. He's the winningest manager in our history. Get that through your fucking heads, people.
He's not going anywhere. 20 years to do it. He's been here for 8.
He's a very good manager. So if we get rid of him, there's no guarantee that the next guy is better or as good as him. Plain and simple.
On that same thing you mentioned, it's necessary to have a guy who can show you that, that sense of calm. That goes into, like, a lot of times, he would say, we have a game tomorrow. So when we say that there's more games in the season, obviously in the beginning of the season, we say there's more games as in there's more opportunities to win. But towards the end of the season, when we say you still got to focus on the next game or there's still more games, it becomes not that there's more games to win, but you cannot focus on the losses when you're in must-win situations.
I agree.
So that I felt that needed to be said because there was a lot of people saying, oh, is there still blah, 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 many games left? Oh, there's still lots of games left? No, he's saying you have to focus on the next game because you need to focus on winning that game because your games are must-win. Yeah. Not because there's plenty of time to still win games, but because you cannot dwell on losses when you need to win your next game. You need to forget about the loss. It's like Kobe Bryant used to say it all the time. He's always confident taking his next shot, even if he's missed the last 10, because he's not thinking about them anymore. There's no point in thinking about them. You can't change them. You can think about it after the fact and, focus on what you can improve. And that's what Jake and I are going to do. We're going to focus on how to improve things. And that's how we're going to do our offseason analysis for the Brewers. We're going to focus on what can improve. My dad brought up with the Patriots want a new coach. They had a losing record. I'll take Bill Belichick if New England doesn't want him.
Man, fucking A, bro. And I love LaFleur, but there's levels of this shit. And I still think that Belichick sits atop that.
I agree.
James commented, you can't focus on games you lost. It's over. You can't do anything about it anymore. And that's where I love the quote, I never lose. I either learn or I win. I either win or I learn. That's the way to go through life. That's how we run shit over here.
I've been listening to a book the last couple of days. It's called Unfuck Yourself. And in this book, he says a quote that really resonated with me being a sports, call me an analyst, I guess. Mm-hmm. I would like to think that, I guess. But he said this, to plan for victory and learn from defeat. And I think that really represents the way that Jake and I focus on the way that we talk is, we talk about the way that our teams can win, even if they're games that we didn't pick our teams to win. Like none of us on the Packers shows on Friday nights picked the Packers to go 17-0. When Jake, Mike, and I did our predictions for the Badgers at the beginning of the season, none of us predicted them to go 12-0. I don't think any of us predicted them to go, 6-6 or 8-4 even, if that's how it finishes. But, we're still going to talk about every single game, and this is how they can win. Or if they do these things, they'll win. So we're planning for victory. And then when the games are over, if the Badgers lose, we're going to look at what they can improve. If the Packers lose, we're going to look at what they can improve and then how they can do that. And we're going to learn from the losses. That's the same thing that the players do. They're going to go back and they're going to look at their mistakes and they're going to look at what they're doing when they're making those mistakes, and they're going to figure out how to correct them.
You mean we're not going to sit here and be like, fuck this guy, he sucks, get rid of him? We're not going to do that?
Exactly.
You don't want to do that? That's the easy way out. No, I don't want to do that.
It is. It's so annoying. Exactly, James. That's the thing. You got to have a short-term memory when it comes to losing. That's what it is. Because if you're focused on the last shot, you're not going to be focused on the next one.
Exactly. 100%.
So my last top 5 moments of the season was Christian Yelich and his cycle against the Reds. John said fire, everybody. Christian Yelich's cycle against the Reds. Hunter Renfroe joined Christian Yelich as a Reds killer this year, but Christian Yelich was the 5th player since 1901 to have 3 cycles. And he is the only one to have 3 cycles all against the same team.
Man.
Only player.
That's tough for Cincy, bro. That's tough. They had a long
Only
year.
Player in history to have 3 cycles against the same team, Christian Yelich.
Now give us Joey Votto, you bastards.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but I thought Yelich is done. Yeah, he's done. He's washed up. He's overpaid.
Yelich is fine. If he can give me 280 to 300 next year, continue to play good defense, continue to give me a good on base percentage, I am 100% okay with it. Does it suck that he's not hitting home runs? Yeah. Did I expect him to hit 40 home runs every year? No, because that's unsustainable. But a high average and playing good defense, that's things that you can do that will help this team win games.
Let's say last year that Christian Yelich bats leadoff for most of the season. Say he bats 287.
Okay.
Has a 380 on base percentage like he has now. Say he hits 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases.
Okay.
How are you not happy with that?
Because he didn't hit 40 home runs and he's not in the MVP voting. I don't know. People like to bitch.
Well, I mean, we know that, God. We spend enough time on social media.
Good Christ. Dude, I don't understand how you do it so much. Sometimes I look, I'm like, man, Tyler's everywhere today. How the hell is he dealing with all these people?
Trying to understand why people cling so desperately to their negativity. It's tough. I'll be honest with you. It's tough. There's so much negativity that it's hard to always stay positive, and it's hard to not get super snarky with people.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to get a little snarky with people. Like if you say something negative, like I'll say, you can focus on positives, or, there's still positive takeaways from this. And then somebody comes back and they do your head's in the clouds. You're nothing but sunshines and rainbows. I assure you, you will get the SpongeBob chicken letters where it's one capital, one lowercase, one capital, one lowercase.
Yeah.
You will get that in my next response to your thing. Like, I'll try and have a conversation with you, but if you're still just going to be a hard-shelled dick, now you're getting snarky, Tyler.
See, like, I like conversing with the fans. Part of the reason we love doing the show live is because we like the comments.
Exactly.
But the point I'm at now in my life, I'm just going to be completely blunt with you guys right now. When I am talking to somebody, right, and like I said, I like conversating. I like talking football. Like, truly, I could talk football with Bears, Vikings. The moment I see somebody start saying some dumb shit, I turn into an asshole. No lie. I turn into a straight asshole because I'm like, this guy's either trying to troll me or he's fucking dumb, and I'm just not having any of it. My patience level is just zero now for all those people because I learned, and I really feel that if I can do this, anybody is capable of doing this. We have all the resources in our lives today, laptops, cell phones, all the website resources. You can watch games, research shit. You can look up shit to make sure you don't sound like a fucking moron. You can fact check people. You have that ability. So for people to still go out there and just sound like jackasses, it's like, I'm done, bro. I am going to kill you now. I'm going to grill you in this conversation.
And, you can go and watch shows like ours, for example, or you can go watch Andy Herman, who talks about the Packers every day. You can watch on YouTube, like, how this and this works. You can Google stuff. Google's free. And you can look stuff on. There's tons of places to find statistics and stuff. You can find out if things are true and accurate or if they're false and just plain dumb.
You can literally.
The thing that bothers me is that you can show somebody that they're wrong and they'll still be like, yeah, but that's not what that means.
Yeah. And I do enjoy trolling. Only one guy, and Isaac knows the guy. But I mean, you know the guy too, but you don't want to deal with him because he's a giant jackass. But I like trolling that guy, right? But you could literally fact check yourself. That shit bothers the hell out of me that people are saying stuff and it's like, do you really believe that? Like, did you not check? Like, Google's the #1 search engine for a reason, people. Like, come on. Dude, that shit just bothers me. So I give you a lot of credit for dealing with idiots. I'm just going to call them idiots. I mean, because there's
I really try to stay in tune with what people are talking about because then I want to come here. Like you said, we do the show live so we can interact with people. I want to see what people are talking about to be able to talk to people about what people are talking about. A lot of the people that watch this show, like James and Isaac and Simon and Tim and Taylor, a lot of these guys are in a lot of the same groups that we're in. They see a lot of the same conversations. So we can talk about these conversations because people are seeing the same people say the same shit every day.
Hey, Mikey Fresh knows his shit, bro. I mean, seriously, Mikey knows his shit. That's one of the reasons we allow him on this show because we care, So it's nice to have Mike on the show because I know he cares too, and he's hurt. He's hurt just as much as us with this shit going on in Madison.
That's the thing. Like we talk about it with our Friday show. The reason we have 4 people on the show on Fridays is because it's more perspective. It's more points of view on things. Like Jake and I, we spend a lot of time researching the things we talk about to feel that we know what we're talking about. That being said, Jake and I don't think or proclaim to be the smartest person when it comes to analysis of the Bucks, Packers, Badgers, and Brewers.
Nope, still learning just like everybody else. But I fact check myself.
There's always different ways to see things. So Jake and I are never going to say that we are the only way to think. You have to agree with what we say or you're dumb. But that being said, Jake and I do put a lot of work into the stuff that we talk about. So that being said, we're going to talk about how the Brewers can improve, what they can do to improve. I think we're going to evaluate players in the offseason. Maybe just do them kind of gradually, maybe like 2 a week or maybe once a month. We'll do some evaluations with the Brewer players that from 2022. But is there anything else you want to say about the Brewers this season? I know it was earlier than we wanted the season to end, but
they had a good year. Had fun, a lot of accolades. I brought up all the team records that were broken. You brought up an MLB record that Corbin Burns did. So
And
for people
Christian
to just
Yelich.
sit here and act like you can't have fun is absolutely ridiculous. Thank you for a good season. I had fun watching you. I enjoyed it. You guys make summer livable. Some days when it's 100 and fuck and my kids are pissing me off, I know I can turn on the Brewers and I can enjoy and space out for a few hours.
All right. Well, we will revisit the Brewers. We're gonna come back to them, but the thing that we're gonna do now is we're gonna talk about the Badgers. We got the Bucks coming up soon. They play in Abu Dhabi tomorrow. We're gonna be talking about the Bucks soon, but we're gonna switch to the Badgers for now, and we're gonna let Mike back in the show, for better or for worse. We'll see.
Hey, Mikey Fresh. Hey, he requested to come on. Mikey requested to come on.
He did.
You better have some shit, man.
I feel it was a good time to have him on was to talk about the potential replacements for Paul Chryst. But I think we can kind of probably breeze through the Illinois game. Like, we know what happened. We know that it's the reason that Paul Chryst got fired. So I don't know if there's anything specifically you guys want to throw out there when it comes to the offense. I do still think that Graham Mertz, despite making some bad decisions, still made some very good throws in this game. Yes. The touchdown that he threw to Isaac Guerrero in the back of the end zone was an absolute dime. There was a 3rd and 16 play that he had a great throw to Kimmeray DK. There was another one later on that he had a great catch and a great throw to Keontae Lewis. So there were still great plays in this game despite some poor decisions. But I don't know if there's anything you guys want to throw out there about the offense.
Before you go, I fucking hate casual fans, dude. I had 2 conversations on Saturday with casual fans, and I knew they were casuals in the first 30 seconds because they were like, oh, man, our offense sucks because we have to get a different quarterback. I'm like, yep, this fucking guy didn't watch the game. I'm not talking to you. Turned around. Next guy, fucking idiot. All right, cool. Let's go home. I'm ready to leave. It's just like, watch the damn game if you're going to make a comment about it. I don't comment on makeup and new products that come out because I don't fucking watch what comes out. I talk about football because I watch football, Like, fuck, man. Casuals. Anyways, Mikey, floor is yours. Welcome back. What's going on? Can't hear you.
Oh, hold on.
We good now? I think we're good now.
Oh, good. All right, you're good now.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for having me back. I wish it was better circumstances, but, here we are. I'll start with Saturday's game. Specifically, our offensive line, I think that was the biggest call out in my view. We've gotten out Wisconsin, if that makes sense, this year for the most part. We're supposed to like completely dominate the line of scrimmage. Brett Beal comes into our house, he returns the favor and does it right back to us with Illinois versus Wisconsin. So I think the biggest takeaway from this game, specifically, forget the Paul Chryst stuff. Our offensive line needs so much work. I feel like collectively, I get it. We're rotating some guys around to fit certain positions, but
some injuries.
Some injuries. But I still, with a program like ours, I still somewhat find that inexcusable. I feel like enough guys should at least be ready to go to fill in these roles, especially with our kind of a background, what we pride ourselves in. So I can't get over the fact that, Jake, you didn't even play a goddamn game, and Braylon Allen had only 2 more rushing yards than you. You know what I mean? Like, it's though we don't set the line of scrimmage. Braylon only had, I think, 2 or 3 rushing yards all game. That's not going to help us at all. And Graham could even have, and like you said, he had a couple good throws, and he can have even an above average game. But when you throw a stat like that out with Braylon, that's not going to put us in line to succeed, to win the game. So offensively, that was my biggest takeaway. It's been like a, week by week thing. It's an obvious, call out to make, I think, at this point. So that was
a hard pass on bringing back Berger, Isaac. I'm totally fine with the 3 running backs that we have instead of Jalen Berger.
I don't think. I know you're just joking, Isaac, because Isaac likes to do that. But I don't think running back depth is our issue. I don't think this team has an identity. I don't think they know what they want to be. That's truthfully. Like, we brought in this new offensive coordinator, and we're like, oh, okay, we're about to throw the ball around, but we're Wisconsin, so we run the ball. So I don't think that the identity of this roster was, put in place. Obviously, we have been watching the Badgers our entire lives. So we're like, Badgers are going to run the damn ball. We're going to hand it off about 25, 30 times, maybe 35, maybe 40. I don't know. Yeah, any given Saturday, right? But then, we have this 4-star quarterback. So I think they have a lot of self-reflecting to do in Madison, and it's going to be a lot of, what are you made of in here? That's really what I think the rest of the season is about. That's how I'm judging it, not by wins and losses. Let me see what kind of man you are, because it's gut check time. Let's just say that.
I think a good person to bring up is Nick Herbig. Nick Herbig he tweeted about it a lot, about keeping that fire, keeping that mentality of hating to lose and to wanting to win. He had a tweet about Paul Chryst about, being sad to see him go. He was still liked by a lot of the players, despite people saying on Facebook or Twitter that he lost the locker room and, none of his players respected him and stuff like that. Like, he was well respected. So, when it comes to the defense, the amount of penalties that were called was sickeningly annoying. That whole stretch, inside the 12-yard line, and there was basically 5 plays in a row that all had penalties on them. One of them was a pass interference that got called after Shaw got hit in the face mask. I don't even know what you do at that point. You just throw your hands up and let them score just so you can stop dealing with the yellow flags flying at you.
I am going to say one thing.
I didn't really have an answer for it, but, Herbig and Benton were really the only two that made a big impact on this game. But I don't know if there's a lot that you guys want to say about the defense at all.
Mikey, were you at the game on Saturday?
No, I was in Madison.
Okay.
A couple establishments watching the game, but I was basically, you guys know I was messaging you like a play-by-play with how frustrated I was.
Yeah.
Going on.
Yeah.
So.
I was mad when I found out Mike was in Madison because we didn't meet up. But at the game, there was a
Remember you got that visor?
No, maybe. I mean, that's a dope sweater, I won't lie. But there was a ref, and he chucked this flag like 30 yards. And we were playing so bad that I was just amazed. I was like, dude, that guy was a fucking shortstop. Guaranteed. He has the arm strength. He chucked that son of a bitch. I'm like, wow. I'm telling everybody in my section, you see that? That guy chucked it. I don't know. It was crazy. Dude, it was at least 30 yards. No lie.
Positive takeaways. I like it.
But it's also on the other end of the spectrum, how the fuck did you see that from 30 yards away?
Oh, man.
Probably the same guy that missed the goddamn delay a game in Green Bay, but we won't go there.
We'll go there on Friday, I'm sure.
Oh, we're talking about that on Friday. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about that. Let's talk coaching candidates. What do you think?
All right. You ready to do it? This is going to be interesting. I'm really interested. None of us know who the other ones have on their list. I'm pretty sure that I know at least one of them that's on Mike and Jake's list, just because I checked with them to make sure that if they were going to have them, that I didn't put the guy on my list. But I'm interested to see who else we come up with and why we come up with these potential coaches. Mike, how many do you have?
So I did 4. I wanted to go 2 that have ties to Wisconsin and 2 that don't. So I wanted to break it up on my.
I stuck with 3, so I'll let you guys go first and give 1 each.
Mike,
and then I'll give my first one. So Mike, you are the guest, so I will let you go first.
Yeah. Okay. This first one is way out of the box. This guy currently is not coaching. He's currently a Fox analyst. No, it's not Urban Meyer. So I think I thought one idea would be to kick the tires and give Chris Peterson a call.
Really?
The former coach at Boise State.
Huh.
He has been in the college football playoff before. If we're going to talk strictly winning percentage, he's got 80% winning percentage throughout his whole tenure with all the schools he's been at. I mean, Boise State, Washington, not exactly the blue bloods, but very successful programs that he has gone to and made them a winner at the end of the day. Obviously Boise State, we can talk about the game against Oklahoma with the whole Statue of Liberty. Yeah, Statue of Liberty play. I mean, Washington, he built one of the best defenses in the country until they lost to Alabama. I think it was like 20-0 in the college football playoff. But to me, in my view, he seems like a guy that you like could adapt to the Midwest, keep the recruiting, strong in that area as well, overall. So I thought I wanted to be like really outside the box on at least one of these. And I think, he was my number 4 candidate for me.
Okay.
Pat, we all wanted to acknowledge, and I should have said this before we started. We all think that there's a very solid possibility, at the very least, that Jim Leonhard remains as head coach. We know he's going to for the rest of the season. None of us have Jim Leonhard on our list for that reason, because we all believe that it's a very strong possibility that he remains the head coach. But should he decide that he wants to just be the defensive coordinator, and that's the job that he wants and loves, like, we're going to give potential candidates outside of Jim Leonhard should he decide that he just wants to be the defensive coordinator. So, Jake, I will let you give your first one.
All right. So, Lincoln Riley's been going crazy the last couple of years. He obviously had a couple of Heisman winners with Oklahoma. He's going over to USC. He looks like he may have a potential Heisman Trophy candidate at quarterback again. And, I wanted to create a little brother rivalry. Garrett Riley, offensive coordinator for TCU. I really want an offensive guy. Not that I wouldn't be happy with Jim, just because of his love for Madison.
I have mostly offensive guys.
I have mostly offensive guys myself. But I really want an offensive guy. Bring a new attitude to this team, a younger guy. He can adapt. I mean, Garrett Riley, I want to get on that before it becomes too popular, but I think he'd be good fit. That'd be interesting, to say the least.
All right, so I have one that's not a terribly sexy option. I'm gonna do this one first. I like my other two a little bit more, I think, but I do think this guy would make sense. I went with Bill O'Brien as my first one. He's got head coaching experience with Penn State, obviously in the NFL with the Texans. He's been the Alabama defensive coordinator for 2 years. This is his third year. He is actually a quote-unquote free agent after this year. His coaching contract with Alabama expires in 2023. So he will be, available should he not come to a contract extension with Alabama to remain as their offensive coordinator. But he's run successful offenses, obviously, in Houston when he had Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, and Carlos Hyde. Some of the best year the Texans had were when Bill O'Brien was the head coach. He also went 15-9 at Penn State in 2012 and 2013. That was right after all the Joe Paterno stuff happened. And really nobody wanted to care about Penn State. And then Penn State was actually pretty solid. He was the Big Ten Coach of the Year in 2012. So he's got Big Ten experience too. And this, I think Bill O'Brien makes a good candidate. I think Badger fans that want to keep the identity of the team and they don't want to do the, I don't want the Badgers to go to a spread offense or an RPO style offense. I think Bill O'Brien would be a good candidate for the people that feel that way. Because Bill O'Brien's offensive scheme, this is something he did in New England, was basically the quote-unquote take what the defense gives you scheme. Mm-hmm. So it was in New England, it was when they had Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez and Wes Welker. And they were basically just dink, dunk, basically take everything you want to do in the middle of the field, and they're going to put a whole bunch of guys there and just play the levels on the defense. And they did it, in Wes Welker had 1,500 yards in a season as a slot receiver. Yeah. Also worked in with a lot of tight end play, which is something the Badgers have actually been known for in their history too. So I think that kind of fits the identity there. And it does also work with several running backs. So, the Patriots, they were kind of the first one to start that 1, 2, 3 potential running back rotation instead of that 3-down bell cow back type scenario. They use their wide receivers on a lot of screens and handoffs and sweeps. Some of the Badgers have worked in a little bit, but not a ton. They work in a lot of play fakes, which is something that Jake and I have been calling for. I feel like since we started this show, we want to see more play fakes and more play action.
My face is as red as Mike's sweatshirt on Saturdays. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
From there,
You're just going to drop back and throw it?
They do also, he likes to run deep shot plays. And when he does that, he keeps extra running backs and tight ends in for extra blockers to make sure that the pass protection is available in those scenarios where they want to take the deep shots. Doesn't pay to send 4 guys deep if your guy only can hold on to the ball for 2 seconds. So Bill O'Brien would prioritize the protection for that. And I think that's where Graham Mertz could actually kind of thrive, is by having time to throw, because I feel like that's where his bad decisions come in, is when he feels rushed and he's trying to make a play and he doesn't have time to kind of diagnose what's actually going on. So I do think, that would be a good way to innovate Wisconsin's offense without giving up so much of their identity. So Bill O'Brien's my first one. Mike, who's your second one?
All right, I'm going to keep this as simple as possible. I'm going to stay in the SEC, and I'm also going to keep it's also going to be an offensive coordinator. I got Todd Monkin as my number 3.
Ah, dang it. There it is. I knew somebody was going to vulture one. Todd, I have him on my list as well.
Yep, offensive coordinator at Georgia. A couple things stuck out to me. I mean, number one, he's had so many offensive coordinator stints in the NFL. I mean, starting with like Tampa Bay, Cleveland. I think those are the 2 actually.
Cleveland was his most recent one, yeah. Yeah,
Cleveland, yep. And he's been the offensive coordinator at Georgia since 2020, so basically the COVID year. They also run a pro style system, which is, if that's something that we want to keep up in Madison, try and bring in recruits, more appeal to them, that's a possibility as well. And I think most importantly too, whether it's, getting like talking to Graham Mertz or like future quarterback candidates, this guy just turned in a walk-on quarterback into a potential Heisman Trophy winner in Stetson Bennett.
Definitely getting him drafted. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. This dude might win the whole, Heisman Trophy case this year. So those were a lot of the things that stuck out to me. Pro style, and quarterbacks are going to be attracted, I feel like, to play for this dude. He can obviously develop when he can turn a walk-on into one of the best players in the country. I think that speaks volumes in itself. He would obviously have, those NFL connections too, whether it's with hiring additional assistants when leaving Kirby Smart's crew down there in Georgia. So I think he would blend in fairly nicely to the program. And it's a lot of like commonalities, I think, with what Wisconsin kind of already does. So I think, not outside the program, but there's some common ground there. So that was my number 3 there.
All right, I'm gonna go back to me just because I have the same guy, so I just want to add more onto the same person because I do have him on my list as well. Not only did he lose the starting quarterback and then have to turn to Stetson Barnett, he also lost his top 2 wide receivers, his top left tackle, and they still won the national championship.
That'll do.
So, that offense, they do also run a lot of play action, which again, big fans. We want to see a lot of play action with Wisconsin. So his offensive scheme does rely a lot on quarterbacks pre-snap decision making. So we would have to see, Graham Mertz is a smart kid, so I think he's perfectly capable of diagnosing some pre-snap stuff. The year before Todd Monkin was there, Georgia was 49th in scoring and 36th in offensive yards per play. 2 years later, they are 9th in scoring and 4th in offensive yards per play.
Wow.
Big jumps there. And they actually, this is interesting because I think this would also fit with the Badgers' identity a little bit. The first year before, or the last year before he got there, Georgia was throwing the ball on 49% of plays. Since 2020 or into 2022 now, 3 years later, they're still only throwing the ball on 52% of plays. So it's not a huge jump in throwing. So it's not like if the Badgers go get a guy like this, that they're going to start throwing the ball 60, 65, 70% of the time. That's actually not the case. It's still going to be pretty close to a 50-50 split. and then it's built on a lot of, throwing the ball when the defense stacks the box and running the ball when the defense puts a lot of DBs on the field. So, it makes the defensive alignment more advantageous to the offense. And I think that is something also that could benefit Graham Mertz should the Badgers decide to go for a new head coach candidate. So I just wanted to add on to Mike, who vultured one of my guys. I figured it was going to happen. But as long as nobody has my number one guy, I'll be happy. But Jake, give me your second one.
I'll just do back to back real quick because one of the guys I'm going to go really short because I know Mike has him. So next one is Lance Leopold. I know Mike has him. I'm just going to leave this. I'm just going to leave it like this. The guy fucking wins. That's it. That's all that matters, right? So that was my number 2 guy. My number 3 guy, actually. My number 2 guy, I'm actually excited about this one. The more I read and was doing research, I was like, this could be interesting. Alex Golesh, Tennessee offensive coordinator / tight ends coach. Now, I want you to just listen for a sec. So the year before he arrived, Tennessee, and this year, Tennessee is the second highest points per game average in the entire country. They were averaging 1.61 plays per minute. That's probably pretty similar to the Wisconsin pace. Yeah. This year, they're running 3 plays per minute. Think of that pace. Now, the Big Ten is known for kind of like the NFC North, where it's like black and blue. Like, we're going to go at you. We're going to run straight at you. We're old school.
Damn.
I think having an offense that is predicated on pace, and getting players in and out. I think, getting a certain quarterback to fit that style. I think that's something that Wisconsin could actually use. I'm
trying to wrap my head around one play every 20 seconds.
Exactly.
Think about that in Wisconsin. Think about Braylon Allen running at you 3 times a minute.
Damn.
Ouch. That's all I'm going to say. Ouch.
Seconds. Just need that line.
Aaron Rodgers is punching the air right now just thinking about that.
Yeah. Think of, snap the fucking ball. But no, seriously, man. I mean, I think that, a change of pace, because
that'd be a radical change of pace. Damn.
It would.
I'm blown away by that.
He was on the UCF coaching staff when they went undefeated, and then he came over to Tennessee, and now Tennessee's offense is just skyrocketing, going through the roof. He graduated from Ohio State. That kind of sucks, but also he's around winning football and he knows winning ways. He was there when Urban Meyer was there, so he saw a lot of stuff. Probably learned a ton from Urban Meyer. I'm just saying, Alex Golesh, he could be interesting. And I like that he was a tight ends coach because Wisconsin's always big on tight ends. So if he could be the OC, run fast pace, and get us some good tight end play like good old Madison used to do, I'd be on pace with that.
We could probably use some tight ends. The Badgers are down to 1.
Yeah, for real.
After their injuries. So,
yeah.
All right, Mike. Who's your number 2?
Okay, I went back and forth with this, and this would be, I think, a little too optimistic because this guy is a head coach. He is doing, pretty well right now. I know I wanted to try and stick to offense more, but I can't leave this guy out because he was one of the favorite assistants that Wisconsin had. And my number 2 state, when he did come into Wisconsin, I mean, I know everything was a question mark, right? I mean, we brought in Gary Anderson. This is the one good thing Gary Anderson did was to bring in this guy. He did something right. He hired Dave Aranda. I mean, it wouldn't be too much of an adjustment, defensively from a schematic standpoint. I mean, he's the guy that did bring in the 3-4 Wisconsin, and to this day, it is still intact. It is still there. So I think that transition would not be the hardest, so to speak. It starts at, before Wisconsin, he's at, Utah State. Obviously, he has a great year there with Gary. Was at Hawaii for a few years prior to that. Gets to Wisconsin, has one of the top defenses for a few years. Then he goes and gets hired at LSU, goes there and wins, not only wins, but wins a national championship with Joey Burrow and company at the helm. So, I mean, that's, that alone, speaks volumes, I think. And then he goes to Baylor, He takes that program from, well, I guess it wasn't too bad because Matt Rule was there, but you know, he has one, I think, average year, and then he goes to the Sugar Bowl in year two. So he's just proven to, like, wherever he has been, he's also been pretty successful as well. As far as the recruiting goes in the Midwest, I don't recall like how big of an impact he had necessarily in that sort of territory, because I know Gary Anderson and staff, they were all about recruiting outside of the state, more so to speak, and go nationwide. You know, that's what would scare me a little bit. I mean, I think he's got the Wisconsin ties. I do think based on like based on like what he's done at Baylor, I do think he would be the guy that would like to keep those recruits in state, or you know, basically with the Barry Alvarez method. I think he would still find a way to keep that, you know, intact. You know, just, you know, with those kind of accolades that he's had, I think it might, the only saving grace also that I think would be a reason why that we could get him is because Baylor is kind of like, as a program, they are doing well, but as the years go on and, you know, it's going to be the SEC and the Big Ten right now, Baylor's kind of left out in the cold, I think. Somebody can correct me wrong on that, but I think as of right now with those two, you know, powerhouse conferences, Baylor is kind of going to be stuck with, you know, I don't want to, you know, throw like schools under the bus, but like the SMUs, like, you know, and all
Kansas
those
and Cincinnati.
Correct. And, you know, money talks, and that's not going to be at the end of the day where the money is necessarily. I know all he wants to do is coach ball, whatever. That's great. But as far as resources and all that too, that goes along with it, I think our Wisconsin could be a potential better fit as well. From every like report that short report that I've looked up prior to, you know, putting Dave Aranda down, he loved Madison. His family's loved Madison too for the time they were there. So I know I kind of wanted to get another offensive guy, but I felt like it'd be worth mentioning, you know, Dave Aranda. So, with those accolades. So that's my number 2.
All right, Jake, give me your last guy.
All right. You guys, I don't know how you're going to feel about this.
Don't take my last guy.
Michigan offensive coordinator. They have two. They have co-offensive coordinators. Did I take your guy?
Nope, you didn't. I thought
Sharon?
Mikey was going to, honestly, when he's like, this guy's having some success this year. I was like, oh,
yeah, I know. I was really interested. Mikey was gassing that up. Well, this guy's having some success too. I mean, Michigan's offense is very good. Michigan overall is very good. They're number 4. Sharon Moore. Everything I've read about him, the players at Michigan absolutely love him. So that was the first thing that attracted me to make him my number 1. 2, you talked about people wanting to stay in a pro-style offense. Michigan runs a pro-style offense. They run the goddamn football a lot, and they run it very well. They don't have the best quarterback play of all time either. I don't think. Is it still McCarthy over there?
McCaffrey?
Yes.
McCaffrey. I don't think that he's worlds better than Mertz, in my opinion.
I'd put them in the same tier, honestly.
Yeah, they're around the same place. So if Moore could come in here, change the attitude a little bit, I think that he'd be a good fit with that pro style offense. And he's the guy. He's the O-line coach. So we talked a lot about O-line struggling this year. Bringing a guy that knows how to coach up some O-line with a little bit of attitude, who the players absolutely love. Check, check, check. That's what that says to me. So Sharon Moore or Alex Golish, if they sign either of those two, I'm going streaking, baby.
All right, my last guy. I'm glad nobody said him, and I'm glad I haven't really seen his name floated out there a ton. I did see the Sporting News had it, and I was like, damn it, I wanted to be the first one to say this. But my last one is Dave Clawson from Wake Forest.
Good pick.
He was one of the first names that I looked up, and the more stuff that I wrote down, I'm like, damn, I want this guy in Wisconsin. Wake Forest is one of those programs that really isn't known for football, but they have actually been a pretty decent football team. So, you know, Dave Clawson is pretty much, you know, a main reason for that is bringing Wake Forest football, you know, back to relevance. He was the ACC Coach of the Year in 2021. Wake Forest was 11-3. He's been there since 2013, and his record at Wake Forest is 51-48. That said, In the last 6 years, their record is 45-30.
That's
So
respectable when
yeah.
you consider Wake Forest.
Exactly. So you take those
Got an
first
NFL quarterback, too.
right. So you take those first 3 years, some pretty rough years, but since then, pretty damn good. So since 2019, Wake Forest is 15-2 at home. I know a lot of people are frustrated about losing to Illinois at home this past week. 15-2 at home since 2019. Had Wake Forest ranked as high as number 9 last year. This is Wake Forest.
Yeah.
We're talking about.
Why do I not remember that?
They're currently number 15 right now.
Yeah.
They're averaging 24th most points in college football right now at 40.4 a game. Wisconsin's at 29.8 for reference. Averaging 298 passing yards per game, just 31st. They're not great rushing stats, but that is what Wisconsin does. So Wisconsin runs the ball well. Wisconsin is averaging 218 passing yards, so about 80 more passing yards that Wake Forest is averaging than Wisconsin. But I think that's, potentially something that works well. You marry what the team needs to be better at, which is potentially the passing game, scoring, with what they already do well, which their identity is to run the ball. So you kind of marry those two things, and I think you could have something there. Wake Forest has been over 35 points in 12 of their 14 games in 2021. So 12 of 14 games, they were over 35 points. I will say that he might want his offensive coordinator to come with him. What that means for Bobby Engram, whether he wants to seek different opportunities or if he wants to stay on potentially as the quarterback's coach, because Bobby Engram is doing both right now. He's the offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach, so maybe they could potentially keep him in on that role. But Wisconsin last year averaged 388 yards per game. Wake Forest last season averaged 468 yards per game.
That's a big difference.
Wisconsin averaged 218 passing yards last year. Wake Forest averaged 307. Can you imagine talking about Graham Mertz as a 300-yard-a-game passer? I would probably calm down the criticism real quick.
Yeah, I'd be like, why we shouldn't be surprised, right? This is what he's supposed to do coming in. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Oh God.
His defense created 29 turnovers last year. That is
nice.
A lot.
That's good.
And then he does have a little bit of familiarity with Wisconsin. Wake Forest and Wisconsin played in the 2020 Duke's Mayo Bowl. Wisconsin won 42-28. Graham Mertz had 3 touchdowns in that game, 1 passing, 2 rushing. So
that was the game where they dropped the trophy, right?
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot about that. So Dave Clawson is my number 1. Like I said, the more I read about him, the more I wanted him for Wisconsin. I think, if he's at Wake Forest and a Big Ten team comes calling, I think that would be a pretty tempting opportunity to take for him. So Dave Clawson is my number 1 guy that I want for the Badgers if they decide not to stick with Jim Leonhard or if Jim Leonhard decides to not stick with the head coaching job. So, yeah, that's my number 1. Mike, who's your number 1?
Lay it on heavy, baby.
Well, I'm kidding. So my number 1, is Lance Leipold. Is there some bias to this because I am a Warhawk? Yes, there is. However, I think there's definitely some justification as to why. I guess I'll start with his, Whitewater campaign. You're in a D3 school and you go 109 wins and 6 losses in D3. You can't offer any scholarships. The students pay for their own freaking football cleats. I mean, this dude, you can't go in D3 to have that good of a record. That's maybe one. And my guess is maybe the coach from Mount Union.
Mount Union's the only one. Yep.
Whatever. But to have that type of a record, year after year after year. And I remember it was my senior year. There was when College Game, they weren't in Whitewater, but College Game Day had a segment on the last year when Whitewater won the title. I think it was 2015. And literally once that segment happened, to my understanding, that's when coaches started calling. That was the last year they won the title. And it was I think Oshkosh came to play. It was like for conference like that weekend. And, you know, right after the season stops, next thing you know, this dude gets a coaching offer to go to Buffalo. So, you know, he gets Buffalo, low tier, you know, in the MAC conference. Like, who the hell wants to go to Buffalo to play school, right? To go to play school, play football at that school. So in his first couple of years, they were, you know, somewhat average, but I mean, it's doable. It's Buffalo. He goes 5-7, 2-10. Third year goes 6-6. Now it's year 4. It's 2018. He's got his guys in there. He goes 10-4 overall, 7-1 in the conference. He just literally gets his guys, his coaches in the program, and he goes 10-4 in his 4th year. That's a sign, you know, all right, we got our system in there. We got our kids there. Like, let's roll.
Culture.
Yeah. And then in his final year there, in his COVID year, the Buffalo went 6-1 and 5-0 in conference during the COVID year.
They're ready to fuck some people
then
up.
So, like, Buffalo was ass, okay? Like, they were lowest tier. They're equivalent to what Kansas was prior to his arrival there. So, being a winner everywhere he goes. At Kansas, he goes there. He goes 2-10 his first year, 1-8 in conference. Mind you, that win was at Texas on the road last year. I know it's like, oh, yeah, that's one win, but you know what? It's freaking Kansas. I mean, Kansas used to, like, last season, I think there was a game. I don't think it was Coach Leipold's idea. The students at, like, Memorial Stadium or wherever, the booth they call it, they won against South Dakota, and the students rushed the field after that win. I still like that just tells you what kind of a program Kansas is. I guess was now, if you want to say that.
Speaks volumes.
Like,
yes.
Speaks volumes. This dude now is literally got a Heisman Trophy candidate quarterback who nobody has ever heard of prior to this year, on the brink, or not, I shouldn't say on the cusp of winning the Big 12. There's a lot of football that will be played, but I mean, they're one win from being bowl eligible. That's going to be the first time since 2009 when they went to, I think it was the Orange Bowl when Mark Mangino was coach, that bigger dude, if you know what I'm talking about. But
yeah.
First time since that year that they've sold out a game since 2009. So he's obviously got the culture there. Like, the students are starting to come around to it. He's still, and I think one of the most unique things about Lance is that he's literally kept, I think it's 3 assistants, the offensive coordinator, Coach Kotelnicki, Coach Borland, the D coordinator, Kotelnicki's the Oak offensive coordinator. And I want to say the quarterback's coach from Whitewater is still with him as well. And then he's also brought with, I want to say, 3 or 4 assistants from Buffalo. So I don't want to call it like loyalty, or I guess you could call it loyalty, or, you know, he's kept the same guys. They can obviously win wherever they go, I feel like.
Yep. So Kansas is 5-0 this year, right?
Yep, they are 5.
You want to know what's happening on Saturday? College game day is going there for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Ever. College game day is going to Kansas.
Go to Kansas. So it's kind of like a circle.
That's big.
They have a segment on him when he's still at Whitewater, right? He gets hired literally 2 to 3 weeks later at a D1 school. Now he's finally got college game day coming to him in college just for football. So
circle.
Just a proven win. I mean, it would be a different kind of offense too in comparison to what Wisconsin sees as well. They like to spread it around a little bit. A lot of misdirection too, from what I've seen. Granted, I do need to watch a full Kansas game, and I'm going to this Saturday because I believe they are slated to play at 11 a.m. Before the Badgers. So we're gonna have them. So it's a little bit of direction, I think, with what kind of offense that they run. The one thing that it's not going to be a knock because, I mean, if they want to move on from Leonhard, it is what it is. But I do know statistically, if we're talking Kansas football, like defensively, statistics-wise, we might be taking like a hit, at least in the first year or two, until we get our guys in there. But at the end of the day, I mean, Coach Leipold's gone everywhere he's gone to. He has, built up a great resume. I have no doubt, even if he doesn't go to Wisconsin, he's going to get a few offers probably from the likes of Nebraska, maybe Auburn. I'm hearing the Auburn job could be up for grabs now. Georgia Tech. I'm definitely missing one more yet. Or Arizona State.
State, yeah.
Personally, he's going to
go there.
Will have his
not for football.
Yeah.
Especially after what they just did to Herm Edwards. Fuck
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, exactly. So make no mistake about it. He can say all he wants that he wants to stay in Lawrence for a while, but I don't think, should Wisconsin come calling again, I think at the end of the day, this is Jim Leonhard's job to lose. But if Wisconsin comes calling, we're going to offer him a fat sum of money. It's going to be a lot. I think, he's going to have the Wisconsin ties, most importantly, which also in conclusion to this, I think at the end of the day, if we do choose to move on from Leonhard, we do have to hire somebody that has to, have that Barry Alvarez effect to keep in those good kids in state, because we've definitely over the last couple of years, we've definitely lost a few of those kids in the state of Wisconsin. And I don't say it's going to cost our program, but you're seeing in the next couple of years now in 2023, 2024, Wisconsin's gotten a lot better with high school kids. So I think it's real important in our next hire here. We need to build off of that relationship that, Paul Chryst has done a good job with. And at least, I guess, not great job lately, I should say, but he's at least established the relationships with the high school coaches. I think that's really what's most important to me in this next hire if we don't go the Jimmy way. So, and I think Lance just fits that mold.
It's cool that he's from the state of Wisconsin. He's from Jefferson, Wisconsin. So, I mean, I'd be on board with any of the guys that we've named. I think that would put the Badgers in a positive direction, which is all we're looking for, really.
Yeah,
correct. I think on the subject, while we're talking about Paul Chryst replacements, we need to give Paul Chryst a thank you. Yeah. He's going to go down as the third winningest coach in Badgers history. 4 10-win seasons since he's been back. And when it comes down to it, his, as being bought out as a coach, he was entitled to $19.5, $20 million. And he settled, and he only took 11.
Yeah.
So now before we get comments of only 11 million, he could have took all that.
20. He took basically half, 55% of what he could have.
Yeah.
That's pretty
You're telling me that if your job says to you that we're letting you go, you're entitled to $1,000 severance package, that you're not going to say, I'll just take $550 and be on my way?
Yeah.
No. Hey, Cody, what do I think about Bill O'Brien? I feel like I just spent 10 minutes talking about him a little bit ago. Bill O'Brien was on my list. He was my number 3 guy. So I did bring up Bill O'Brien. So if you can, when the show is over, if you want to scroll back and listen to that part, I did bring up Bill O'Brien as one of mine. Is there anything else you guys want to say on the subject of Wisconsin coaching?
I will go out not on a limb here, but I will say that Paul Chryst deserves all our respect. I think you kind of just pointed that out here. He is just a guy that I think at the end of the day, too, he's a guy who wants to play ball. That's all he wants to do. He's a guy that I would love to go to literally a bar with, a dive bar, drink a 12-pack with him and just talk football all freaking night. I think he's like that guy, He doesn't want to worry about the outside noise. He just wants to play ball. I mean, he's a player's coach. I just think at the end of the day, and I think it's a lot of little things that we're building up to this, but I think as far as a marketing perspective with representing the Wisconsin brand from a nationwide perspective with recruiting, there's a lot of little things, but I think at the end of the day, he just wanted to buckle down, play ball, and not really give a rat's ass about literally anything else, which in today's age, you have to, you
got to kind of play the game,
keep your eyes open in a lot of different areas. And I think ultimately that had a big part into why he's no longer the coach. I think when you get, teams like USC and UCLA that are going to come calling in a couple of years, you need to be all hands on deck with what your identity is. And Jake, you talked about it when we started on this call. We don't have that identity right now. We need to figure that out. And along with the fact that you got guys that hot names like Lance Leipold, Jim Leonhard. Jim Leonhard's his name has been thrown around literally since his first year as a D coordinator at Madison. I personally think not necessarily do I think it was directly Chris McIntosh's call to make this transaction. Do I think it was directly his responsibility? No, I think there was alumni that were involved on this that throw down millions of dollars to make sure our program, is steering in the right direction. So I think there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we're talked about. For all we know, Paul Chryst could have been a part of that. But I think Paul Chryst is a legend still in my book. He didn't get us there to a natty, but no one has yet for Wisconsin. So he won against the teams for the most part that he was supposed to beat. Props to Paul Chryst, and there should be no sort of slander at all, whatsoever.
What about turnover chain my fucking ass? What about that, huh?
One moment with him. It was probably, I was going to say the 3 top wins with him. I would say LSU is number 1. I would say Miami's number 2. And maybe 3 and 4 could be those ass whoopings that we gave Michigan at Camp Randall.
Oh, the one where we literally were like, we're just going to run the ball. Like, we're just going to keep handing the fucking ball off. And they were just like, okay, keep doing it and keep getting 10 yards.
What was it? Was it 70-7 over Nebraska?
Was Paul coach at that?
Was that Paul Chryst or not?
Might have been. That was 15 maybe? 14? It was either. Yeah, that I'm not sure, but no, Paul Chryst is just a guy that I would just love to go suck beer with at a bar. Just talk.
It was 2012.
That was that long ago? Damn, I'm old.
Because that was the last time he won the Big Ten, right?
Yeah. So that could have been Brett Bielema yet.
It would have been 2012.
Yeah.
Because we haven't won the Big Ten in 10 years.
Yeah. That sounds right.
Sounds sad. If you ask me.
All right. Well, we're going to look forward now. We're going to go into Northwestern. Honestly, I am looking – I did more of a step back. I did less of an analytical, statistical point of view on this, and I'm taking more of almost like a rest of season outlook starting with Northwestern. So for me, from the offense, I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the offense, and I'm going to continue to say it because I do think he is still doing good things despite making some bad decisions, but I like what I've seen from Graham Mertz talent-wise. He's made a couple poor decisions, but he also needs his wide receivers to help him out a little bit by holding on to the ball. So we saw it in Illinois. We saw some drops. We saw in the beginning of the season, Marcus Allen struggling with some drops. If guys can hold on to the ball, Graham Mertz's stats will look a lot better. Obviously, he wouldn't have had his first interception last week. That ball was a ball that got tipped. We'll see if the Badgers end up healthy on the offensive line. Malman hasn't played since week 1, week 2. So that's a big deal. There's been a lot of shuffling since then, and it shows. But this team needs to rediscover that they're a capable offense. They have good players. They have talented players. Graham Mertz and all 3 of the running backs, Garendo and Malusi and Allen. And then you get to the wide receivers like Skylar Bell and Marcus Allen and Kemare Dike and Keontez Lewis, who's a guy that I don't think any of us really saw coming, has played really well and has made some really nice catches. There are capable players on this football team. So that's what I want to see. I'm going to go into this game with 0 expectations, honestly. Because I just want to see what this team does in their first game under Jim Leonhard as head coach. If it's going to be, they're going to be energized by having a new head coach, or if they're going to be, kind of bummed out by losing the guy that they've had there for years. So like I said, I'm going in not with a ton of expectations, but what are you guys looking at from the Badgers offense on Saturday afternoon?
Jake, go ahead.
You want me to go?
Nah, I've been talking too much. You go ahead.
All right. So for me, I'm going to be watching Mertz as well. Mertz talked a lot in the offseason about facing adversity, and he thinks that he's becoming a better leader. And he's been hit with a lot of adversity to start this season. And this next moment on Saturday is adversity as well, and it's a big one. This is one of the biggest, situations that he'll be in his young career. So for him to go out there and prove that he's a leader, he's going to have to do that. We're going to have to sling the ball around a little bit. I would love for us to get back to some more ground and pound. Northwestern's defense is not the Northwestern defense of old. They've been giving up a lot of yards. I mean, they played a really close and with Nebraska. And we all know how that turned out. So I think
It
this
was
is a very
ugly.
yeah, I think this is a very winnable game, but I'm looking to see who's going to step up. Tyler talked about, how they're going to be feeling, how they're going to react. Well, we're going to find out. And that's the thing I think I'm looking for, is to see what kids step up. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. So it's funny. It's funny that you say that. I was going to bring this up earlier. This year, we have not overcame any sort of adversity in a game at all.
No.
Like, you think about like when we've fallen behind or when something goes wrong, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
Snowballs.
I think we've done a very awful job of overcoming any sort of adversity that gets thrown our way, penalties included. When it's discipline, adversity, it always just seems to keep trending downward. Take the Ohio State game. No, I not think we were going to win that game. But as soon as Graham Mertz throws that pick, it's literally game. Like, there was no signs of life at all.
Nope.
I do want to see us overcome some adversity. I mean, yes, it's against Northwestern, but let's not forget the last 2 times we played there, we've laid eggs. And I think I said in the beginning of this year going into the season, I forget if I said we're going to lose to Northwestern or at Michigan State. Everything's changed now since the coach firing, whatever, but we just do not play well at Northwestern for God knows what.
Yeah.
We just don't. It's not an 11 a.m. game. Maybe that helps, but we're still 10-point favorites going into this weekend, which is crazy. I don't know. Vegas must love us or something, but
We're hating Northwestern, which I think is a possibility.
Yeah. I would like to see us overcome some sort of adversity, whether it is offensively or defensively, but we just have not been able to do that this year. Whether that's Graham Mertz, having a game, or the offensive line just setting the tone too. Like, I need a complete game out of the offensive line. If it's not going to be the adversity thing, a complete game from the offensive line. That's what I'm looking for, because we need to go back to the Wisconsin way, probably on the short term. I'm thinking we need to get aggressive and fuck some dudes up at the line. So.
Oh yeah. So Mikey, you brought up the 10 points. I was going to bring this up later. Do you know what the percentage is for the consensus pick by ESPN on this game?
It's 80-20, wasn't it? Or like something like that? Or no?
Tyler, do you know the number?
No. Now I know what it is. Now you're giggling.
69% consensus pick, baby. I only wrote it down to 69.
That went down.
That's awesome.
I swear to God, I thought it was 80. Okay. But
nope, I just checked today. I write it down on Wednesdays right before the show. 69% consensus pick.
Hey.
All right. So nice. For the defense, again, I'm looking more at a zoomed out version. So for the defense, I'd like to see more fundamentally sound play. Cutting down on the turnovers, like Mike said, responding to adversity, responding to penalties is a big thing. So they're going to happen, but like we said when we're talking about the Brewers, focusing on the last play means you're not focusing on the next play. And that's something I think the Badgers really need to work on, is not focusing on the mistakes you've made, but focusing on executing on the play that's coming up. As far as the defense is concerned, I would also like to see somebody other than Keanu Benton and Nick Herbig be involved in the pass rush. That's the other thing that I'm really looking for about the defense. So what are you guys looking for from the defense against Northwestern's offense?
So you use discipline. That's a word that I would use as well. Being more disciplined. The team just looked horrible last week, both ends of the football. I mean, yeah, we can talk about Badgers still ranked number 29 in college for defense. That's good, Cody.
That's surprising, honestly.
Yeah, the thing that I'm really looking for is just somebody just make a play. This is usually, when you're in tough areas like the Badgers are right now, you turn to your stars, and Tyler talked about you want somebody other than Benton and Herbig. I am looking for Herbig to be that guy, lead by example, because we talked about this team needing an identity. Somebody's got to make a play. Somebody's got to create that momentum. So I'm looking for Herbig, Benton, Torchio, like his 100-yard pick six. I'm looking for somebody to spark that momentum, spark that fight. I mean, Mike
leader.
literally has a hat that says Grit Factory. I mean,
yes, sir.
come on. Let's get back to it. Let's get that swagger back. Let's start feeling good about ourselves again. Somebody gonna make a fucking play. That's what I'm looking for.
Mike, what are you looking for from the Badgers defense?
Well, I think first and foremost, you guys already mentioned it, Nick Herbig. I mean, this guy, week by week, he's always talking about, okay, wait for it. Just wait for it. Like we are going to be there. So I need him to show me some leadership, show me some heart out there, be a captain, show even post, your coach getting fired. You need to overcome that right now. And this is like your make or break. This is one of your make or break points of the season. I'm going to be honest. So another individual I do want to call out, he is going to be back this week, I believe. Alex Smith, the corner. So I'm looking forward to seeing him on the field and getting him some. Because let's be honest, the secondary, granted, Torchio's having an okay year, I guess, but the secondary, go figure, is not, holding itself up to the standard.
I think Holloman has had some decent moments, especially for a freshman, but as a whole, I agree with you.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing Alex Smith. He was supposed to be one of the starting corners this year. So, and Northwestern does throw the ball a lot. That is something that has not happened in years past with them. So I'm looking forward to, seeing our secondary getting a lot of looks as well, because they definitely will. And it's just something. Yeah, they average. I think Northwestern averages close to 300 passing yards a game. Or if it's like 270, something
285.
So the secondary is going to be busy, but maybe not as busy if we can get guys like Herbig, and maybe, you don't hear guys like Daryl Peterson as much as I would have hoped, whether that's getting on a pass rush. Love to hear from him. Maybe it's even a backup like a Caden Johnson, or like maybe they start using some, a couple more backups in certain positions just to, light a fire under this team's ass to like get some sort of a momentum shift going, like who's going to step up and make that play. So, gradually, more individualized for me, but I'm looking forward to seeing, Alex Smith overall getting, on the field for the first time this year.
So who would your X factor be for this game, Mike?
X factor. So honestly, I'm going to go, it's not even an X factor, I guess. I'm going to say the offensive line again as a whole. Northwestern gives up, overall, Northwestern has given up close to 175 yards a game on the ground this year. I think that's where we're going to be able to potentially attack. On the attack is the run game. So I'm really, really, I need this offensive line to go for me this weekend, because, that left the most, with the exception of all those penalties collectively this past weekend, the offensive line just got their ass beat, and it's been repetitive this whole year so far, in my view. I need them to have a game. I need them to have a complete game. I think that's going to be ultimately the X factor as well. Otherwise, Mertz might be, on his butt, quite a bit too. So
I went with Braylon Allen for mine, so I think that ties in really well to yours about the offensive line. We've talked about it a couple times already. Having a short memory after negative things have happened. If you can put that behind you and focus on what's to come. So for Braylon Allen, if you can, focus less on what happened last week and focus more on what you're doing this week, if you can have a bounce back game, Braylon Allen is my X factor. Jake, who is yours?
The number you're looking for, by the way, Mike, they give up 172.6 rush yards, which is a ton. I went back and forth. I was like, Mertz, Herbig, because when you're looking at the team, you look at the quarterback, and on defense,
you need a hero.
It's it might be it's probably a linebacker, right? Most of the time, and it could be a guy that could get a couple strip sacks or just a couple sacks or tackles for loss, or just that vocal leaner.
Screen.
So for me, I landed on Graham Mertz, and I've done it almost every week, but it's because it needs to happen. He talked, like I said, he talked about adversity. He talked about facing challenges and not shying away from them. And like I said before, right now, like point blank period, simple as it can be, it's time to put up or shut up.
Mm-hmm.
We're under 500, 5 games into the year. It's time to fucking go into Chicago, do what Wisconsin teams do in Chicago, come away with a W, and then we can start this shit up. I mean, there's still a chance that the Badgers completely turn this shit around and we turn this into a winning season. 8-4, I mean, is definitely something I could see happening.
Yep.
9-3 would be tremendous. But is it realistic now? The way that I've seen this Badgers team lifelessly just walking around the field? No. But
now,
maybe Jim could spark something.
Hey.
And maybe I'm talking myself into saying Herbig. I don't know. But I think Mertz has to be the guy. Yeah. That's what I really think he's at. I think Mertz has to be that guy.
Cody put a stat for you in the comments that Northwestern defense allows 384 yards per game.
Yep. 211 pass yards and 24.8 points per game.
Yeah, their defense is not. Opportunity is a perfect word for this weekend. That might be the word of the day for Saturday for the Badgers is opportunity. Jake, give me your key to victory for the Badgers.
Me and Mike are always in the same wavelength, especially with the Wisconsin way. It's the fucking offensive line. I am just so sick and tired of seeing these big, giant motherfuckers getting ran over. My dad always told me, on the offensive line, you got to be mean. You got to have a mean streak in you. And, that's serious, man. Like, you come to Wisconsin, you play in the Big Ten. This is the conference where you get down and dirty. We produce offensive linemen for the NFL in this conference. So for the Badgers offensive line to be looking as bad as it is, quite frankly, it's pissing me off.
Yeah.
Get out there, be fucking nasty, run somebody's ass over, and let's fucking do this shit. Like, if you're not ready when you put that goddamn helmet on to completely destroy another human being, take that fucking shit off. That's how I feel. It's pissing me off that they look so bad. I'm sitting in the stands on Saturday, and I'm just like, because there's thousands of people bitching and complaining, so I don't want to join in on them, and I try to be optimistic, but it's like watching them get their ass beat for 60 minutes or not. It's tough, dude. And I want the offensive line to just produce. Just show me something.
Yeah.
Show me some heart.
All right. For me, I just wanted to I stuck with my zoomed out version. So I want for my key to victory is remembering that Wisconsin is still a strong football program and playing like it. That's my key to victory. I don't know, Mike, you mentioned a couple things when we were talking about the offense, but is there one that stands out to you as a key to victory?
Man, the key to victory, buy Graham Mertz some time and maybe get Braylon Allen more than 2 rushing yards.
That's a good one. I would say that would help.
I think they could do that in one play.
Like, that was bottom of the barrel shit that this past weekend. That was Jake, I feel bad that you were in the stadium watching that game. At least I was having a few beers while watching it. That was the only benefit, being on it. But no, it's, this is just not the Wisconsin way. It was bad enough having Brett Bielema doing that to us, right in our face.
You know what we can hold over him, though, is that guy can barely run. He can barely move. That's son of a bitch.
He's probably better off just laying down and having somebody roll him.
Bro, and he was working the refs the whole day.
Yeah.
All day he was working those motherfuckers, and it worked.
Yeah.
I'll just say that.
So it's, stuff like that. I just want, I need Braylon Allen to go off. I want our running backs to maybe have a good game collectively. I mean, we were off to a good start on Saturday with Garendo, and I messaged you guys, let's get Garendo lined up as
on the field, hot hand.
And maybe even going into this weekend, maybe Jim, Coach Leonhard will let Bobby just run the whole show himself. For all we know, who knows if Chryst has had some sort of influence on this play calling. Maybe we spread it around a little more. I think we are going to see I think we're going to see a little bit of different stuff. Like, we're going to see some plays that we haven't seen before. That's a prediction that I think.
We were in a scenario last year where we're like, at this point of the season, just open up the playbook and just let it rip.
Yeah.
If there's a time to do it, it's
now,
when you're 2-3 and just fired your head coach. Seriously, open up the playbook, go cover to cover, throw trick plays. I don't give a shit. Do whatever you want to do. Even if it means that you lose a game, but have fun for once. Just look like you're having fun playing a football game for a little bit.
Yeah.
If you lose this one, it's your first game without your head coach. Go win the rest of them and finish 8-4. But just, if there's a time to open up the playbook completely and just full send on, just say fuck it and we're going to do whatever we want to do, like, there's really not a better time against the bad defense to do it. So, Mike, this is your first time joining us since we've been doing 2 score predictions every week now. So one from the head, one from the heart. Give me your score prediction from the head.
Oh my God! From my head, I'm gonna go.
This should be your smart one, unless your heart controls everything.
It's gonna be 35 to. All right, yeah. From my head or heart. Oh my God! Now you got
me. Do the heart if you want to do the heart first.
Dude, it's hard to separate them. It really is. I hear you.
For my heart, we're gonna score. It's gonna be 35 to. We'll go 35-21 because I do think we're going to give up some points, unfortunately. But my head, I am going to say 27-21. I think, we're going to have – I think we score points on this team. If we can't score points on Northwestern, who teams such as Nebraska have scored a bunch of points on this team, like
Houston.
If we can't do it now, like, I know Illinois is not the greatest team in the world, but they're clearly better. If we can't do it against
them, they had a good defense coming in.
Even though I say we're cursed playing at Northwestern for some odd reason, if we can't score on them, then it's just speechless. Then Jimmy's just going to have to blow up the whole ship. But I had 27-21 Wisconsin. Northwestern still does cover, though.
All right, Jake, give me your score prediction from the head.
You guys are going to hate this. 17-16.
Yes.
That would be a grinder. My score
really
from the head, I went 20-14.
Okay.
Prediction from the head.
Also a grinder.
yeah, that's still a grinder. Jake, give me your score prediction from the heart.
38-10. Everything that we need is 38-10, bro.
I went 30-10.
Oh my God. We are on the same wavelength, bud. If 17-16 happens, I'm gonna be pissed. But I don't know, just all the turmoil. We don't have an identity, like I've said 100 times. I really feel like Tyler, me, and you. I feel like our head predictions are gonna be pretty spot on, which is sad.
Yeah, I mean, just get back to winning, have some fun. Yeah. Change the feeling around the team.
Yep.
Of all of the negativity that I've seen, I would say it's probably 60% Paul Chryst, 40% Graham Mertz, as far as the negativity surrounding the Badgers are concerned. So if that's, a potentially accurate thing, 60% of what the fans are complaining about is gone. So I do feel that this is an opportunity to change the public view of the Badgers football team, at least for the rest of this season is concerned, is starting this weekend. And having a team like Northwestern that's allowed some big games to other teams, and having this opportunity to go and reset the feeling around the team for this season, I think is a big opportunity for the Badgers on Saturday.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Well, Mike, thanks for joining us again. I think we put out some good potential candidates for the Badgers should Jim Leonhard decide he doesn't want to stick around with the head coaching job, or the Badgers decide they want to hire, an offensive-minded head coach to revamp the entire program as far as identity and style of play is concerned. We'll see. It's going to be the rest of the season with Jim Leonhard regardless. They did say that Jim Leonhard will be the head coach for the rest of this season, so they're not going to make an in-season coaching hire or anything like that. I guess unless they do decide to just go ahead and make Jim Leonhard the guy and keep him for years to come. But we'll see what happens with it. We'll see. We'll just get a chance to basically hit a reset button with the Badgers this weekend. So I'm looking forward to watching it and seeing what the team looks like on Saturday. So.
All right, well, I'll be available Saturday to bitch about shit that doesn't go right. So talk to you guys then.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for joining us again, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
See ya.